And we are recording. Cool. So, hi, I'm Rowena.
And I'm Imogen.
We're at Kett's Books with Em joining us for Books at Lunchtime.
Hi guys! Nice to be here today. So we're talking about more books because our beloved customers can't get into the shop. So I'm stuck at home here with my own selection of books. But we wanted to chat to you about some things that you might like to read that you might not be able to see because you can't get in front of a bookshelf. And we're broadly sort of theming these books at lunchtime by sort of category. So today we thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about some books that have kind of explored quite interesting themes of friendship in them. So do you guys want to kick off? What, guys, you've got a massive pile behind you.
We've got my pile here. So this is the first one, which is called The First Woman. And this is set in Uganda, which is quite interesting. It's, you know, something a bit different. And it's kind of about groups of women living in this village in Uganda and the friendship, but also sometimes rivalry between them. It's been one that I've been eyeing up for a while, and I've now got a copy to read, so I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah,
so it's in hardback at the minute, isn't it, Rowena? That one
currently in hardback. Yeah.
It's a really interesting we talked the other day about books, and when we talk about books in translation, about, you know, embracing books that aren't written by British or American authors. And there's a really interesting well, there's always been a very strong literary tradition in various African countries, but it's really noticeable this year, isn't it? There's been quite a lot that's coming through.
Yeah, definitely, which I think is, you know, is always a good thing to kind of have a bit more diversity in the field. And yeah, this one's I think especially interesting because it's combining kind of looking at feminism as well, so you kind of got the diversity, but it's also kind of a feminist book, which always appeals to me personally. And Tracy says Tracy really enjoyed it, so it's kind of Tracy's recommendation. So
that's great. Right, well, let me jump in with a few here then. So I was in the other day and I've taken a few off the shelf to come back and talk to you about. So I need to repatriate this to the bookshop, but this one here is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. So you'll know Elizabeth Gilbert from Eat, Pray, Love, and I think she rather unfairly gets labelled because of that. I think she's a really interesting writer, really great writer, and I read this book so quickly. I super enjoyed it. It's set in 1940, and it's about two young women, well, one young woman mainly, who after getting kicked out of college, she ends up in New York making costumes at this really dilapidated theatre. And it's about this kind of hedonistic time around the war. And then one night something happens and it kind of just, the whole world just shifts, and the nature of her friendships and relationships changes. And I don't know, it surprised me somehow. It is a bit chick litty, but it also isn't. And it's one of those books, I was reasonably long, but I was thinking about it for days afterwards. You know, what is this kind of idea about what it is to be a woman? What is it to be in a relationship? What are these expectations that we have? So you were just talking about feminism being an interesting part of the books you're reading.
Yeah.
And I found that to be especially true here. So yeah, hard recommend. And it's just out in paperback too.
Awesome.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I know what you mean. I do kind of think Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love, and you forget that she's actually got all these other great books.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Now we've both got this, haven't we, at the moment? This is another one that was featured in our Christmas catalogue. Hopefully a lot of you will have had the Christmas catalogue now for inspiration. This is out in hardback, Rachel Joyce, Miss Benson's Beetle. And again, this is a story of two women who really defy convention, and they go off in search of a particular insect into the South American, I haven't read it yet, I must be honest, into the South American
jungle. South American jungle,
I know it's one of Tracy's top picks for the year.
It's been such a good seller in the shop. It's absolutely flying off the shelves because so many people have been interested in it. I think because it's a nice story in the sense of, you know, it's not like nice things happen. So I think especially given everything else that's going on in the world, that's kind of maybe a more comforting read than some of the other books that we have, which I think has appealed to some people.
Well, we need that right now, don't we? That kind of
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Right, this is not about female friendship, but again, I read this in pretty much one sitting last week.
Wow.
This is a really weird looking book. Like, it looks like it's self-published, but it's from this little independent publishing house up in Yorkshire. And it's called Leonard and Hungry Paul, and it's one that the booksellers are raving about all over the place at the minute. And it's a story of these two characters, Leonard and Hungry Paul, and the sunfish. You know, the reason that becomes obvious as to why there's a sunfish on the cover as you read the book. But it's a story of two men who are in many ways completely unremarkable, but live their life very differently to other people. They just live through this kind of slightly detached existence of tea and playing board games together, and not quite functioning in a socially acceptable way, but actually being able to spread massive amounts of positivity in their wake. And it's really lovely. And I've spoken to a few different people who've read this now, and we all agree that it's a really surprising little book. I think from a first-time writer. I think Ronan Hessian is a musician. I think he's Irish, but it's as I said, a really interesting, lovely read, and it's a one of nice little book kind of category, if there is such a thing as a nice little book. So particularly good for people who there's a lot of my male friends who this is going on Christmas list for them this year. If it's anyone that's slightly tricky to buy for, this is a really lovely, lovely ring.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Cool.
What else have you got there?
I think Imogen's going to talk about this one. So
we have Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club. I have started reading it, haven't finished it, but it's about a group of I think there's 4 of them in an old people's home, and they have their own club on a Thursday night, and they talk about unsolved murders, and they end up having to solve well, obviously there were real murders, but a murder that happens very close to where they're living. And I think it's really sweet. Their friendship from the first page is very obvious. While they may be in an old people's home, they're very bright, and their friendship is so close knit between the 4 of them. And I think it's really sweet, as well as being a murder mystery book, which is always great.
So it's kind of it's a much lighter crime, isn't it? I haven't read it yet, but I've heard that it's much more a kind of, can we say soft crime? It's much more kind of a Miss Marple-y rather than a.
I've read a lot. It's more gentle than a lot of other. Yeah.
Great.
It's really sweet.
That's brilliant. I have another book here. This is by an author called Siri Hustvedt, and it's called The Summer Without Men. And it's not a long book. It's another really nice story. Well, it's not actually a very nice story, but it's a very easy story to read about a woman who is in her 50s, discovers her husband has been having an affair, and has a complete nervous breakdown and moves back to where she grew up in a community that is now really just populated by her mother and her mother's female friends. So it's a really, again, it's interesting. I don't know whether 2020 there's this whole kind of like women writing about finding their place in the world after a period of not knowing, because there seem to be a lot of books around like this at the minute, but that is what it is about, and it's really well observed. And I think the author is reasonably well known in the States. I hadn't heard of her before, but it's, you know, it's that sort of a story. We've seen those sorts of stories before, but it's a very, very readable offering too. Yes.
Awesome.
And have you got any others there? Those are my ones for the day.
So our last one that we've got here is Elizabeth Strout, Olive Again. So this is just out in paperback, which is very exciting. So yeah, it's the sequel to Olive Kitteridge, which if you haven't read that, I'd also really recommend that. I'd actually recommend all her work. I'm a massive fan. I got into her at Christmas last year. It was the first time I kind of come across her work, and since then I've read 3 of them because I've enjoyed them so much. So we're back, this book, it's back with Olive Kitteridge again. She's actually she tries to get back in touch with her son, who in the first one, people who've read it will remember that they're estranged. And yeah, it's all about her life in this like American town. It's called Crosby, Maine. It's in Maine.
She writes that town so well, doesn't she? I think that's what really stood out for me in Olive Kitteridge, is just the way she describes those characters. It doesn't matter if it's in Maine or Manchester, we can all relate to those different kind of character tropes, right?
Yeah, her character portrayals are so real. I think that's the thing. They're multi-dimensional. There's a lot going on, and they're believable. And some of the, you know, then it's not like loads of dramatic detail, and in that way I think it's kind of maybe more relatable because of that. I find yeah, I think that, yeah, she's really got a way of getting to the heart of what like people are like, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. And I've been able to, it's interesting that you've loved it so much as well, Rowena, because I think it's one of those rare books that really does hit home with all manner of people. You know, great aunts and, you know, much younger cousins of mine. You know, everybody seems to be somehow finding some point of reference, and I think that's a real mark of interest in a book.
Yeah,
I'm pleased Olive's back. I'm really pleased that she's back.
Yeah, she's brilliant, isn't she? I think there were times in the first one that I might have actually cried, which doesn't always happen with books, but that was, you know, it's so I'm looking forward to getting into this one. Kind of trying to resist the urge to buy it now and probably put it on my Christmas list. So
how can we buy these books then, Marina?
Oh yes, well, talking about buying, so we are open for phone orders from 9:30 3 to 4, as someone in the shop then. We're also taking orders at kettsbooks.co.uk. So that's an email. If you just email us with the name of the book and the author, and if you have the ISBN, that's great, but don't worry if you don't, we can usually find them. And also make sure that you we'll either reply to your email or leave a phone number and we'll call you to confirm. We're doing a collection service between 10 and 2, Monday through to Saturday. So if you've ordered a book, we'll let you know when it's in stock and you can come in then to pick it up. You could also try your luck if you're in town anyway and there's books on your mind. We might have it on the shelves because we do still have all of our shelf books, which we can also sell you via the window. Yeah.
That's great. So we're here. We're very much here.
We're here,
and we're also here for this kind of conversation as well. Obviously today it's me and Rowena and Imogen, but if you've got a question or something that you would typically ask a bookseller if you were able to come in, reach out and ask us, because we're really, really happy to be able to give that sort of personal advice on the phone. If you've got something you want to email in, we can try and focus one of these sessions on answering your book related queries. You know, we all read a lot. We all have a lot of books that we love and we want to share. And especially as this time of year comes around, it's a really important time to be able to share that knowledge. So
yeah, I just echo that. That's like my favorite part of working here, is getting to help customers like find books that they want, and I want to keep doing that. So just get in touch if you've got any questions.
So you heard it here first, folks. You know, Rowena is going to be really, really sad if she can't help you find the books that you never knew you wanted. So yes. That's great. Thanks ever so much, guys. I'll speak soon.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Bye. Nice to see you.